Hi everyone, Oля here, you're welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to talk about cardinal numbers case declension or відмінювання кількісних числівників in Ukrainian. Declension means відмінювання and cardinal numbers means кількісні числівники. So відмінювання кількісних числівників means cardinal numbers case declension. But before we start learning, I would like to quickly remind you that if you enjoy my content and if you would like me to make more of these videos, if you would like to help my channel grow, you can support me on Patreon. The link to my Patreon as well to the links to all of my other social media I will leave down below. Also, with all my patrons, I'm sharing the information that I've been using in my videos since I think fall of 2020. So a lot of information by now. So if you are a type of student who doesn't like to take notes of their own and would like to download, for instance, this particular presentation, you are welcome. They are all available for my patrons. And yes, traditionally taking a moment to appreciate my patrons. Thank you everybody who supported my channel. You can see the names of some of my patrons on your screen, and now we can finally start learning. So to be honest, the topic of case declension of Ukrainian cardinal numbers is something that scares me as a teacher, because the topic itself is complicated and I don't want you to be discouraged by it, okay? Because you should know that even Ukrainian TV hosts, people who are working, TV reporters, people who are working with the language are quite often making mistakes when they do the case declension of Ukrainian numbers. So I feel like the only people who are doing it properly are teachers of Ukrainian, again, during the class, maybe some book editors, you know, people who work with grammar. But simple native speakers like me can quite often in their spoken language make different sorts of mistakes, and I'm sure the main reason for that is the rules being very complicated for understanding. So if you are a foreigner, it is expected from you that you are not going to make it right from the very first try. So again, don't feel discouraged. If you are making mistake, it's for a reason. It is really a complicated topic. And another thing which I find a bit problematic is that different sources are given different sort of rules. So that makes things more complicated. I'm going to give you the main important rules of using Ukrainian numbers, of properly declensing them. But then, yeah, don't be upset if that gets too hard on you. So first of all, the number один, one, okay? Cardinal number один. It also changes by gender and number, okay? So один, one masculine singular, одна, one feminine singular, одне, one neuter singular, and одні plural. Okay, so that makes the declension a bit more complicated and it behaves in its own way. So let's take a look, how do we do the declension. Let's take a look at один, masculine singular, однина, чоловічий рід. So nominative or називний will be один, genitive or родовий одного, dative or давальний одному, accusative один or одного, instrumental одним, and locative на одному, в одному, окей? Один, одного, одному, один, одного, одним, на одному. That's how you do the declension of masculine singular один. What about feminine singular? Одна, одна. In nominative will be одна, in genitive одної or однієї. These are two parallel forms which you can use whichever one you prefer. Next, dative одній, accusative одну, instrumental одною, однією, again two parallel forms, use whichever one you like. Locative на одній, в одній, окей? Одна, одної, однієї, одній, одну, одною, однією, and на одній. Let's take a look at neuter. Neuter means одне, одне, окей? So nominative одне, genitive одного, dative одному, accusative одне, Instrumental одним, and locative на одному. Одне, одного, одному, одне, одним, на одному. What about plural? Plural in nominative is одні, одні, genitive одних, dative одним, accusative одні or одних, instrumental одними, and locative на одних. Again, why in accusative we have these two, either one or another one, either like nominative or like genitive? Because you know that's how accusative case behaves. It will depend on the noun that we have, whether it's animate or inanimate, right? If you are still confused by this piece of information, I recommend you to watch my video on accusative case, and that is going to clarify this for you. Now, from 2 to 4, два, три, чотири, plus numbers like троє, четверо, п'ятеро, шестеро, семеро, восьмеро, десятеро, дванадцятеро, etc. are following a certain scheme. So in nominative it will have the ending that it has. In genitive it will have ending och. In dative om. Again, in accusative, the one I was talking about, it can either be like nominative or like genitive. In instrumental, the ending can either be oma or just ma. And in locative, och. It will end in och. Okay? Number 2, два, can have two forms. It can either be masculine, два, or neuter as well, or feminine, дві. Okay, only two versions. So again, that's only in nominative or accusative. In all the other cases, it's going to be the same for both masculine and feminine. So in genitive we will have двох, двох. In dative, двом. In accusative, два, дві, or двох. Again, in instrumental, двома, двома, and in locative, на or у, двох, двох. Okay? Три, three, трьох. Again, it's not going to have masculine and feminine. We forget about that concept right now. From now on, we are going to deal with only one gender for everything. So три, three, in genitive трьох, in dative трьом, in accusative три or трьох, in instrumental трьома, and in locative трьох or у трьох or на трьох, depending. Next, чотири. Чотири means 4. What we are going to have in other cases. In родовий or genitive, чотирьох, чотирьох. Pay attention that in трьох and чотирьох we have a soft sign, м'який знак after р, чотирьох. Dative, чотирьом, чотирьом. Accusative, чотири, чотирьох. Instrumental, чотирма, no soft sign, чотирма. And locative, чотирьох, на чотирьох, у чотирьох, etc. Okay? And now I want you to pay attention to the part of the table that's in purple. So we have a group of numbers which we call збірні. Збірні числівники, sort of compound numbers. So обидва for masculine and neuter, and обидві for feminine means both. Okay? So обидва хлопці, both boys, or обидві дівчини, both girls. Okay? The two of them, both of them, one and another one. Two, right? Again, pay attention. Обидва, обидві, when we take them through cases, are going to lose this два part. We are going to only work with ob. Add endings. Except for accusative, when we use the nominative form for accusative. So, родовий обох, давальний обом, знахідний обидва, обидві, like in nominative, or обох, like in genitive, орудний обома, and місцевий, locative, обох. Троє means three of them. Троє хлопців, the three of boys, or троє дівчат, the three of girls. Again, in genitive will be трьох. Pay attention, the soft sign appeared here. Трьох before we added the ending. Genitive, dative, трьом. Accusative, троє, or трьох. Instrumental, трьома, and locative, трьох. Let's take an instance of п'ятеро. Here, четверо, the four of something. П'ятеро, the five of boys, right? Шестеро, семеро, they all have this suffix r, okay? It is in blue here in the word п'ятеро. So when we take a word like that through cases, when we do the declension, it is going to lose this suffix, except for, again, accusative case, when we use the nominative for accusative. So if п'ятеро loses this suffix, our stem is going to be п'ят, but we are going to add a soft sign for it to sound better, so that's what we are going to have now. Genitive, п'ятьох, dative, п'ятьом, accusative, п'ятеро, as in nominative, or п'ятьох, as in genitive. Instrumental, п'ятьма or п'ятьома. These are two parallel versions. Use whichever one you want. I would rather recommend using п'ятьма. I never in my life have heard anyone saying п'ятьома, to be honest. But this version exists in grammar, so choose it if you like it. And locative, п'ятьох. Okay, so that's how we do the declension for numbers from 2 to 4, 2, 3, 4, and some збірні числівники, compound numbers, such as обидва, троє, четверо, п'ятеро, шестеро, семеро, etc. That's the scheme we are using. Next, numbers from 5 to 80, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30, except for 40, сорок, don't touch сорок here, 50, п'ятдесят, 60, 60, 70, 70, and 80, вісімдесят. How we do the declension of that? So in nominative, it would usually not have the ending, the null ending, so-called zero ending, not existing ending. In genitive, it's going to either take ending e or och, okay? In dative, e or om. In accusative, we treat it either like nominative or like genitive. In instrumental, ma, and in locative, e or och. Okay, so let's take a look. П'ять means 5, п'ять. In genitive will be п'яти or п'ятьох. Okay, these are parallel versions which you can pick from. Dative п'яти, п'ятьом. Okay, кому? П'ятьом. Accusative п'ять or п'ятьох, or п'яти, if we need to use the form of genitive. Instrumental п'ятьма or п'ятьома. Again, I would rather say п'ятьма and many other native speakers. but п'ятьома also exists, so we need to mention it, okay? And in locative, we would have endings и and ох. For instance, на п'яти, on 5, и на п'ятьох, on 5 as well. Again, two parallel versions that are existing at the same time. Same thing we are going to have with шість, but pay attention that in some instances, e in the root, шість will become a. For instance, like in genitive, шести, okay? Not шісти, but шести. That's if we choose the shorter, the smaller ending, the change is going to happen, the alteration. But if we pick the longer, the bigger ending, ох, it will stay the same, шістьох. In dative, again, if we choose the smaller ending, шести, the change is going to happen, e changes to a, шести, шість becomes шести. Or if we choose the bigger, the longer ending, the stem is going to be the same, шістьом. Next, accusative, like nominative or like genitive, шість or шістьох, or шести. In instrumental, шістьма or шістьома. And in locative, на шести, на шістьох. Same is going to happen with 7. In root, we are going to have the vowel e. But if we are going to choose the shorter ending, it will change to a. So сім in genitive will become семи, if we choose the shorter ending. If we choose the longer one, we will have сімох, okay? In dative, семи or сімом. In accusative, сім or сімох or семи. And in instrumental, сьома or сімома. Again, I would rather use сімома in this case. Сімома, not сьома. But again, up to you. And locative, на семи or на сімох. Same happens in вісім. Вісім means 8. So you see, вісім, we have two e vowels. However, if we are going to choose the shorter ending, the change is going to happen. In this case, вісім e, the first e will change to o, and вісім will become восьми in genitive, okay? Or вісьмох. In dative, again, восьми or вісьмом. In accusative, вісім or вісьмох or восьми. In instrumental, вісьма or вісьмома, and in locative, на восьми and на вісьмох, okay? Next, from 50 to 80. Probably the last parts of the 80 column you don't see because of my face, but the endings are the same there, so worry not. And in the end of the day, you can download my presentation to see everything without me moving in the picture. So from 50 to 80, again, we're going to have the same endings that we dealt with in the previous slide. But I just decided to give you an idea of how it's going to look. But again, good news here, no alteration, no vowel alteration is going to happen. We are going to just change endings. So let's take a look at п'ятдесят, 50, and that would be it. So називний 50, родовий or genitive 50 or п'ятдесятьох, parallel versions, давальний 50 or п'ятдесятьом, the same endings that we had in the previous slide. Знахідний 50 or п'ятдесятьох, орудний 50 or п'ятдесятьома. Again, I would rather say п'ятдесятьма, to be honest. And місцевий, locative, на or у 50 or п'ятдесятьох. So yeah, same thing is going to happen for the rest of these type of numbers. So I'm not going to read them for you. If you want to write them down, press pause button, write them down. If you don't see the endings for вісімдесят, for 80, they are the same like for all. Let's move on to the next slide. So numbers like 200, 200, 300, 300, 400, 400, 500, 500, 600, 600, 700, 700, 800, 800, and 900, 900. We need to remember that in numbers like that, both part of a number goes through declension. What do I mean? For instance, двісті contains two words. Дві means two, and сті in this case is 100, okay? 100 means 100, so двісті means two hundreds, okay? So both words should be taken through cases, okay? So the endings are going to change not only in the end of the word completely, but in the root, just sort of the ending of the first part of the word. So let's see what it looks like in practice. So for instance, двісті, 200, right? We have two words, дві, two, and 100, 100, сті in this case. So називний is двісті. Родовий, we need to change дві to двох, because два in родовий is going to be двох. And 100 in родовий would be сот. Okay, so we are going to end up with двохсот. Давальний, dative. Два in dative would be двом. Okay, двом. And 100, стам. Okay, so давальний will be двом стам. Okay, not двістам, but двом стам. So what I'm trying to tell you, we need to take through declension, we need to change the ending for both parts of the word. Next, знахідний can either be двісті, if we need nominative form, or if we need the genitive, it will be двохсот, like in genitive. Орудний, again, два in орудний would be двома, okay? And 100 in орудний would be стами, so we end up with having двома стами. And місцевий на двохстах, because два in місцевий in locative would be двох, на двох, у двох, and стах. Okay? So yeah, that's a bit complicated, but if you know how to do the declension for the first part, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., then you should not have problem with that. And the sort is just, you know, you need to memorize how you do the sort, and then you are good to go. Let's take п'ятдесят. П'ятдесят means п'ять, and сот means 500, right? 5 and 100. п'ятдесят. So we have two parts, the one being п'ять and the one being сот, 100. So what we are going to have here? So in називний, obviously, п'ятдесят. In родовий, again, п'яти, because п'ять in родовий is п'яти, and сот will have п'ятисот. Давальний, 5 in давальний would be п'яти, and стам will give us п'ятистам. Знахідний either 500 or 500. Орудний, 5 in орудний would be п'ятьма. П'ятьма. So again, п'ятьма стами. П'ятьма стами. And місцевий на or у п'ятистах, because 5 in місцевий in locative would be п'яти. Next, let's take a look at 700, for instance. 700 means 700, so it contains two words, sim and sot, two parts of the word. So each part should be taken through cases. Називний 700, родовий 700, давальний 700, знахідний 700 or 700, орудний 700, and місцевий 700. На 700 or у 700. Next, there are three numbers, 40, сорок, 90, дев'яносто, and 100, 100, that take similar, that behave very similarly when we take them through cases. So these numbers in all cases except for nominative and accusative have the same ending. Okay? So, in nominative and accusative, we have сорок, we have дев'яносто, and we have сто. And in all the rest of the cases, genitive, родовий, dative, давальний, орудний, instrumental, and місцевий, locative, we will have сорока, дев'яносто, and ста. That's easy. I wish all Ukrainian numbers behaved like that. So now that we are familiar with all the rules, the only thing that we need to remember that if we, for instance, have a number like 125, we need to take through declension every one of these words. 125, 125, for instance, right? So each of them should be taken through cases. So let's practice a bit. 447, 447. Okay, 400, 440, 40, and 7, 7. In nominative 447. In genitive, in родовий 447 or сімох, okay? We have parallel versions there. Dative 400. Remember that 400 contains two words, чотири and сто, okay? So 400. Сорока, 40, easy, right? Always a in every case other than nominative or accusative. And семи or сімом, okay? 447. Accusative 447 like nominative or 447 like in genitive. Орудний instrumental 400 47 or сьома. Again, сьома is very unlikely. You are very unlikely to hear somebody in Ukraine say сьома, but yeah, it exists in grammar, so we consider it as well. And in locative, місцевий на or у 447 or семи. Okay, that's how you do the declension for 447, 447. Let's take a look at another instance, 78. 78 means 78. 78. So that's what it will be in nominative. In genitive, 78. In dative, 78 or вісьмом. In accusative, it's either 78 or 78 or 78. Parallel versions, I know, confusing, but they exist. Both are correct. Орудний instrumental 78 or 78, and місцевий locative на 78 or на 78. Next, 106, 106, 106. Okay? Nominative 106, genitive 106 or 106, dative 106 or 106, accusative 106 or 106, and орудний instrumental 106 or 106, and місцевий на 106 or на 106. Okay? Next, 21. Називний 21. Родовий 21 or 21. Dative 21 or 21. Again, two versions that exist. Знахідний accusative 21 or 21 or 21. Орудний 21 and місцевий на 21. And that's all I wanted to tell you about the declension of the numbers, of Ukrainian cardinal numbers. Again, encouraging you to not feel discouraged by the way how complicated this topic is. trust me that if you decided to learn about it, you are already doing great, and maybe you are going to do better than many natives, because natives are making mistakes in that, because that is complicated. So yeah, if you enjoyed my video and would like to see more of these, give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that we can learn Ukrainian together, and I will see you in my next video, hopefully very soon. Bye!